told us that they had sold 800 and something thousand of those coins. So at the whole point there, we were telling them we want our coins back. So all of a sudden, we receive a transfer into a wallet that we had on Liquid, and the wallet that we had on Liquid. And okay, let me go a little bit further. They then disconnected the relationship between the sub wallets they had on our servers, on our exchange, and all of a sudden we went back to them and said, "What are you guys doing? Why have you guys entered our system? And why are you guys creating a different type of strategy or different type of protocol than we agreed to? You guys were meant to sustain obviously subcategory or sub wallets for users, and now you guys have taken all the new coin that belonged to users who went to Liquid, and you've pulled them together into one pool, and you've taken all of those, and now they're under your private key. So what's going on here?" So from there on in, I've got no idea what they did. I mean, this is a long discussion. They went there, and then they basically sent us 199 million coins. Now, this is where the AI came in. Now, the AI came in and said, these aren't the original coins we gave them. So they're completely different. The connection is not there. They're not from the wallets that we gave them. They're absolutely different coins than we actually originally gave them. They didn't send them back to our network. They sent them actually inside of Liquid to a Liquid wallet. So there, when we hit them up and said, guys, listen, we don't know what's being played here. We don't know why you guys have changed the protocols. We don't know why you guys are pulling all customers' funds. We just need these answers because our AI, because we use something called Neighbors, which is New Genesis Artificial Validation Intelligence System. And we have something called a USI on every coin that's minted. So it's a very different system than most systems. So once we did that and we spoke to them, all of a sudden we've had 199 million coins in our wallet. And this is in the Liquid one. Literally straight away, the next day we wake up and everything's been deleted out of our Liquid wallet. So there's no longer there. There's no coins there. All of it's gone. The trace of it is gone. The transaction is gone. Nothing was there. It just didn't exist at all.
So they sent you fake versions. Okay, let me mute you. They sent you fake versions of your own token, and they sent it to your Liquid account because since it's fake, they can't send it to your wallet. They sent it to your Liquid on the Liquid exchange. They sent it to your account. And then the next day, did you ring the alarm? Hey guys, the fuck are these? They're not real. And then the next day, everything was wiped from your account?
Correct.
Precisely, yeah.
That's fucking insane.
No,
yeah, and by the way, the only reason why we're able to get the evidence, because they wiped it. We actually took a screenshot, but other than that, it didn't exist at all. No record of it at all. So usually, even in internal transfer, when you got the internal transfer record, there was nothing. It was like it never went into our wallet. And then we got onto a phone call with Seth, and obviously, you guys have heard the video. If you haven't, go look at the video. And then that's where we get the admission that Alameda had given them. Alameda told them to, reverse. They say reverse the transaction, delete the transaction, and that's where we went from there. But it's a long.
Hold on. So Liquid said. So go ahead.
Why are you surprised? Sam admitted on this Twitter Spaces, on your Twitter Spaces, when I was questioning him, Sam admitted that they did the same thing around Bitcoin, where they created fake notional Bitcoin. Remember, what they were doing was money was flowing through Silvergate Bank. So Mario would take $16,000, deposit $16,000 into Alameda's account at Silvergate Bank. Now Alameda's account has $16,000 in it. Mario goes to FTX and says, hey, I need $16,000 to buy a Bitcoin. So Mario gets a fake $16,000 balance in his account because the money is actually in Alameda's account. It's not in FTX. And then Mario says, hey, I want a Bitcoin. But now Alameda doesn't have these Bitcoins. So what were they doing? They were letting you buy fake notional Bitcoins. And it's not, it's every coin on the exchange. And that's why when everybody came to withdraw their Bitcoin at one point, all of a sudden we saw in the charts, we saw there were all of a sudden no more Bitcoin, but people had a lot of positive balances on spot. And then you go, hold on a second. The only explanation here is that you actually don't have a balance on spot. You just have a play number that's written on the spot account. It's fake tokens. That's what they were doing.
What's crazy though is that true, but like Rand, this is so much. Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, sorry, Rand, you nailed it. I saw you did a good job on that one. You got him to admit that. Now, what's funny is if you listen to our tape with Seth. No, Seth. Okay, you're respectable. You're FTX. You're wonderful people. But if you're a less reputable sort of exchange, how do we control how much is being done? The answer is, well, that's just the risks that you have with centralized exchanges, which leads us to the, if you like, the more conspiracy theory. when what the plan was is to link up all these centralized exchanges.
So this is before I go. This is a big one. This is a big one. That's a perfect one to digress to go to next. But a quick question, Nick. On one last question is just to clarify what you said. Has before we go to the Kevin O'Leary and Justin Sun relationship that we discussed earlier. Hussein has you spoke to Liquid, and Liquid said that Alameda requested for all the data to be wiped from your account.
No, not the data. Liquid, sorry. So Alameda told Liquid through a Slack message to reverse the transaction. Now that's the words he used. But reversing the transaction, what they did is actually wipe the data off the wallet. So there was no recollection. There's absolutely no data on the wallet. If I show you a screenshot now, it doesn't show that there ever existed in that wallet.
Because it's not on the blockchain. Because
yeah, exactly.
Correct,
so it's a fake. It's a wiping the data of the fake tokens they sent you.
Correct. 100% correct.
That's insane. That's fucking crazy. I just can't believe
that's
they got away with it.
Why this was important is we actually, when we saw how they pulled the funds, see, we specialize in decentralized networks. We don't actually, at that point, we didn't understand centralized networks. So we work on something called decentralized ledgering systems. A little bit, it's very different to what you guys use in the crypto space. We work in the meta space, a little bit different. So when we put these protocols in place, we didn't understand that a centralized exchange would act in such a manner. So the alerts that came through, and you'll see the emails and you see the video, they kept coming. I mean, red alerts keep coming from neighbors saying these guys are changing or penetrating the system. They're attacking the system. Obviously, it's a new AI and it was still in its machine learning stage, but it kept coming back with reports that something fishy was happening. And now all the stuff that we spoke about now is what brought us to do the investigation. That's why they're important.
Okay. All right. So Nick, you were going to the next point, which is this is more of a conspiracy, but based on all the information that you have. And that's the, I'll let you explain it, the liquidity pool they're creating.
Oh, yeah, I mean, okay. They can essentially, a centralized exchange can keep creating as many counterfeit, versions or notional figures or whatever you want to call them on their exchange as much as they want, as long as nobody withdraws that excessive amount. Now, but if you then link a number of these exchanges together, obviously that gives you a broader spread. So, for example, if you have, if you have a 95% of your counterfeit BTC, and you've got 5% to cover your withdrawal, you're 19x your BTC just with a press of a button. So now we know that Justin Sun, Kevin O'Leary's got a couple of exchanges. That was part of the plan, and we thought, and obviously he thought he would succeed because because this crypto market is nothing compared to the CBDCs. When they start flowing in, and they could charge proper fees for that, then that's when FTT would just explode in value. So the CBDCs is where the big money's at, right? So all the government currencies and trading on them. And imagine being able to just imagine where this could go. They've got them all on. They can counterfeit CBDCs of any country. So, Sam and his team and the people above him, which we know at least are his parents, and we know at least are Dan, can determine the outcome of a country's policy. I mean, it's George Soros on steroids, So if Canada's not behaving, you can dump their currency. If Australia or New Zealand or whatever, you can dump their currency at will. It's scary stuff. Scary stuff. So, but that's just, if you like, prognosing into the future, but of where they were going. But the important thing for what
like controlling another nation's oil supply.
So essentially, just go back to it. So essentially, what you're saying is that FTX, Kevin O'Leary, and Justin Sun were potentially working on a joint liquidity pool for all their exchanges, and then they were also looking at becoming the predominant exchange for CBDCs, which is dwarfs the current crypto market cap, allowing them to essentially counterfeit the coins or the central bank digital currencies, the coins of different countries. For anyone that doesn't know, of any country. Is that did I get the speculation correct?
Yeah, and it's extremely easy. It's just you're just joining the matching engines between exchanges. It's pretty easy. Hus can tell you the the actual.
Nick, I just want to add something, just how we got to that. Okay, so when we got attacked, we were working with a lot of developers. Now, some of the developers also worked on basically matching technology for FTX and getting them, the FTT token and vice versa. Even their enterprise accounts, and we'll get into the enterprise accounts a bit later on. So one of them is a good friend of ours who we've worked a very long time together. Now, a lot of the information we first got in its first essence was from one person. Now, when he found out we were doing a large investigation, he actually went and helped us by bringing a lot of people to us. Basically told them that he knew us very well. He knew we could be trusted. We wouldn't disclose the information. And then a lot of information started pouring. Now, we couldn't tell which was real, which was not. It's impossible. We're not investigators. But what we did is we did data models to see which one actually fits the scenario. And then we started looking at things that's happening. I'll give you an example. One of them told us about the hack and what was happening. We'll get into that later on. But prior to actually the hack happening. So, if you're sitting down and someone's giving you some information and then you actually see it happening in front of your eyes, you start to question what's fact and what's fiction. And that's how this whole investigation led from one to another. The network got bigger and bigger. Amount of people that FTX heard, and that people just started coming. And then from there on in, obviously, we started working with Ben, which is BitBoy, and the BitBoy squad started to put messages out there, and a lot of people started, a lot of projects. We spoke to a lot of projects who had the same issues, and we went through all their evidence. So it actually became a full-out invest from something so small as an internal issue for ourselves. It actually blew up to a pretty large investigation after a few months.
Okay, so just back to the point. By the way, I've had someone message me, ask Mario, they cannot create fake tokens and send it to a wallet. Just for anyone listening, the fake tokens, because these are very serious allegations. And by the way, I brought up Catskill. Catskill was one of the whistleblowers that gave us a lot of information, and he was saying exactly what you guys were saying. So, and he's not the only one. I've got others DMing me, confirming what you guys are claiming. But just back to the fake tokens, in an exchange, so when you have an account in Binance, Crypto.com, Huobi, OKX, any exchange, they can do whatever they want. It's all central. It's all within their servers. It's not on-chain. So when they move tokens from one wallet to another, it's all numbers on their platform, on their software, on the centralized software. They can create tokens, fake tokens, and that's where naked shorting comes in. Like, they can do all types of shit, and that's what a lot of us are alleging that Alameda. We kind of know that Alameda did with FTX. Now, this is why, Wahid is up. Wahid, perfect timing. Wahid, I don't know if you heard the story, but this would, Wahid almost hired Alameda to do market making for him. Essentially, Wahid, they would have fucked you, based on what we're hearing now. So if that's why when Haz asked them, hey, send the tokens to our wallet, our MetaMask wallet, whatever wallet they use, that wasn't possible. They sent it to the exchange wallet because they were fake tokens, not real tokens. They're not on chain. They made them up and called them that. That's the problem with centralization. So let's go back to the discussion. Nick, you mentioned creating a joint liquidity pool among Kevin O'Leary's exchanges, and there's more allegations. Kevin O'Leary, Justin Sun, who was trying to help out Sam, and based on our call, you said this is likely a reason he was trying to help Sam, and FTX. And they had efforts to try to become the central exchange for centrally backed digital currencies, which essentially would have allowed them to do the same shady shit they did with project tokens, but now on a significantly bigger scale. Instead of faking Bitcoin, as Ran mentioned, and he got Sam to admit, and by the way, anyone listening, so Ran, what you got Sam to admit in that show, you and Simon both got him to admit something. Regulators will use that information, that's why it's crazy what Sam is doing. And he started becoming a lot more careful after that space. But Sam admitted to creating fake Bitcoin. And now when they become an exchange for centrally backed digital currencies, imagine being able to create US dollars from thin air. Well, that's essentially the power they would have had if everything went according to plan.
That's what he was angling for. That's what exactly was going on. That's exactly what he was angling for. I don't know if you guys have been following. Sorry, I've been putting my baby daughter to bed, but I don't know if you guys saw there was breaking news that Kevin O'Leary was paid $15 million to be an FTX spokesperson or representative.
$50 million.
And he said he lost 9.7, which means net he made $6 million of someone else's money.
And that's just what we know. Just to be clear, that's just what we know.
$15 million to be a representative.
Did he get it in dollars or FTT? Does it say? Does the report say?
No, he said he lost 9.7
No,
million.
I mean the 15 million he got paid to be an ambassador. I'm curious whether it's FTT tokens or dollars.
I
Because if
thought
it's
what
FTT,
I thought what he said was the money that they paid him, he converted it into crypto. I don't know which one though.
okay. Okay, well, any crypto is better than FTT. All right, let's go back to the story, Nick. So we're up to that joint liquidity pool between Justin Sun, Kevin O'Leary, and Sam Woods. There's nothing that's pretty common for exchanges to do this, but considering Alameda's shady background and their efforts to become the exchange for centrally backed digital currencies, that's what makes it concerning, correct?
Sure, but and in the meantime, there's all the fake volume, and I think Hush should explain that because there's two interpretations of the significance of the fake volume. Now, let's call it, to be safe, 95% of the volume is fake, right?
You're saying 95% of which volume? All of FTX's volume? No.
At least
Nick, let's stick to the 75% scenario, Nick. Let's not go as far as 95. Stick to the 75 dollar model 4.
He wants to allow a margin of error, and that really depends on whether you say the volume is fake for the sake of just inflating valuations, inflating the volume for the purposes of making his exchanges that he's just acquired more and more valuable. So they go, say Liquid, when he bought them, and they all of a sudden Liquid experienced enormous volume and then went up to the top 20 exchange. Whether he's doing it for that purpose, whether he's doing it for the projects, or whether he's, at the same time, the fake volume helps take out all the traders who are, taking shorts and longs all the way through. But what's interesting is it then becomes a dependency mechanism, because projects like us is, if you don't use a market maker, you're just going to die. So you agree to become a market maker, and then another source of fee generation is fleecing the projects who agree to hand over their liquidity, because if they don't get the volume. So the fake volume thing is a whole.
Also, Nick, one of the core things is the way they actually raise capital outside of the exchange, because obviously their fees were very low. So they actually use the volumes, or the fake volumes, to con investors to bring actual investment into FTX. So this is why we say just go to the bare facts and look at the smaller crimes. I mean, like the custodianship, like the manipulation of their books. I mean, they knew it was fake and they knew everything. I mean, if the numbers show that the volumes in there weren't real. Now, they utilize that volume to gather money, and that's really another crime in itself.
So they use the volume to increase the valuation of FTX, increase the valuation of the value of FTT, and what's the third one? To get more projects to give them tokens for market making? How is that related to?
I mean, people that invested into FTX. So the biggest thing that I looked at, and in our very early investigation, I do apologize. It's 4:30 in the morning here. So when we started looking at this, we started to look at how much money they actually spent, and then we looked at how much volumes they ran through their platform, and then we looked at what they reported as actual revenue. And that's where we realized that the volumes don't match. I mean, even doesn't matter which data model we used, and we used many different data models. Not one data model matched their scenario. The only data model that matched their scenario, if it was correct, is if they were using a 0.1% fee on overall. That's all they were making, with a 25% volume being real. Now that's the first reason we said, okay, well, this is something wrong.
Back to the and the purpose has, in your opinion, to boost fake volume, is the two explanation I can have is boost the valuation of FTX and the value of FTT. Is there any other reason they would want to fake volume?
Yes, to increase their position on the ladder on the exchange ladders.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Okay.
It's generally everything that's like, if you can be perceived as the second largest exchange in the world, then everything opens up. People are going to pay
to charge projects more to list.
Everything, your entire reputation skyrockets. Hussein, were you guys were listed on FTX as well, right?
No. We, as soon as we hit Liquid, okay, I'll tell you what happened with us. As soon as we realized that this market was what it was, and we kind of hit a wall, we said, shit, we're not going to walk into this market making strategy. This is a con. If we go into the market with this con, we know that our buyers or our future customers are going to be ripped off and conned. So what we did is actually step back, right? And then we started the full investigation, put all our resources into actually investigating these guys. So we took a complete step back instead of entering the market.
To go back to Nick, what you were saying. So you said, just Hussein, always mute when you're done speaking, bro, because you got a lot of feedback. So Nick, we're up to the fake volume. to boost their reputation, get more clients, charge more for projects to list, increase the value of their own exchange of the FTT token. So 75 to 95% of the volume was fake. We'll continue the story. Nick, you're muted, bro.
Yes. Now, I was expecting Huss to jump in and explain the volume in some detail and how he's come to the conclusion that there's this show being played, and at the same time investors are being conned. Sorry, that's where the real money is. So all the VCs are being conned, and the fiat's being exited from the system while this artificial show is going on. And then
so can you say, that sentence, fiat was exited from the system while the artificial show was going on?
So they raised the capital from the VCs. Look at the show we're performing. Isn't it wonderful? Look at the valuations. Look at the prices skyrocketing. The VCs are giving him money. That's the money that's exiting the system. So that's where you think that's where their big money's coming from. The investors, not the users that they're fleecing. Now, then Huss points out that then his team was looking at the money laundering aspect, and that became really scary. I think, Huss, can you speak about that?
Jesus. Huss, tell us more about the money laundering. Go ahead, bro.
Okay, so what Nick's referring to is once we started piecing together expenditure that FTX spent, it just didn't make any sense. So when we start looking at how much money FTX had in its control, forget about if it raised it for someone else or if it raised it for itself. We actually got to a point where, and this is literally, I mean, the only thing that I say that we don't have correct is we were told there's about $500 million of property bought in the Bahamas. Now, at the moment, we've confirmed from people in the Bahamas that there is 300 million plus, but it hasn't gone up to 500 million. But the rest of it is pretty solid data. I mean, it's really solid data. So once we started looking at how much money FTX actually spent, we don't care where and what. We weren't looking at, how they raised them, who raised them, or where they went. Just literally money that it had in its hand. Now, we got to a determination that FTX alone had over just under $13.5 billion from our assessment. And then we started investigating Alameda. And then when we went into Alameda, we found that there was a further $13 billion through Alameda, where there was almost $4-point-something billion, which was loaned to Paperbird, SBF, Singh, Ryan. But even the government, once we got even further,
FTX had 13 billion. Yeah.
So so through the data we collected and through everything we put together, we believe that $13 billion of expenses over the life of FTX was utilized. From projects, from seeding. This is money it had in its possession, during the whole period.
Okay, so FTX had 13 billion in their possession throughout that period, and Alameda had 13.5. So is that a total of 26.5?
Yeah, so we totaled it all together, and again, this is data modeling. So I mean, take it as a data model. Don't take it as completely factual. But it's pretty solid data. So we came to an estimate of just over $26 billion between the two entities that they actually had utilized during the whole lifestyle of the two entities.
So they had over $26 billion they've spent. Is that when you say utilized?
Correct. They've spent it in some way or another.
Which was over leveraged and under collateralized, right?
And Alameda had $13.5 billion. So that's crazy numbers. Hold on. FTX spent $13 billion and Alameda spent $13.5 billion based on your data modeling.
Yeah, when I say spend, it's money that it obtained from various ways, including raising capital for other projects. So there's various ways that we looked at this, but we weren't actually interested in what they did with the money. We're interested in how much money they actually were able to raise for themselves and other people. So we're just looking for data points at this point.
But this is money they've spent. That data, the numbers you gave me are money that actually spent, that went outbound.
Yes. I would argue that there may be a 10% off on our data. But I think I've already given you the sheet. I mean, you can go and look at all the numbers and try to match the numbers, and you'll figure it out yourself.
Just for anyone listening, all the media, there's a data room with all this information. It's a massive data room. I had a quick look at it. So after the show, you could reach out to Haz and Nick. They'll probably be asleep. So tomorrow you could reach out to them. They'll give you that information. All right. So continue.
I wanted to add a little color onto why they would have kept selling Hussein's token even after they got called out. if they were short, which effectively they were, and Hussein was saying, hey, give us back our tokens, if they had sold them, they didn't have them, they wanted to push the price down more, or else they were going to have to pay up and they'd be losing money. And so they wanted to buy those tokens as low as possible. So the only reason that they would continue selling is to do that.
So they kept dumping their tokens, so the token's worth less, and they can go buy it.
Correct.
Yeah, that's what we figured as well.
Yeah.
So they were naked shorting their own token to bring the value down so they can return their token at a discounted price.
Absolutely.
That's crazy, bro. That's insane, man.
Listen, I'll say something else. I said it on the first time. I know you didn't like it, but you guys can go look at this. Go on Binance and go look at all the small caps between, call it like April, May 2019. Look at the Bitcoin chart and then look at all the small caps on Binance. What Binance was doing, because we had a token listed there, is they were shorting all the small caps and they were buying Bitcoin. And so they were running an arbitrage, statistical arbitrage. They're doing the same thing now, except they're buying their own token, BNB. And I know you guys don't think this is, people don't like me saying this, but listen, it's obvious because BNB is the best performing big cap by miles. I mean, it's only down like 55%, compared to Bitcoin down 75%, Ethereum down 80%. It's like, come on, you can't tell me that BNB is that much better and is immune to the selling. It's because they've changed it.
We could. That's a discussion for another day. I know this is speculative,
sure.
but
I'm
also
the exchanges are doing that though.
Yes, I know, and I know that was, for anyone listening, that was what we're talking about now was a concern we had years ago among many exchanges, all the wash trading happening, all the fake volume on those exchanges to try to rank higher. And a lot of the smaller exchanges, were doing it. Now here we don't have FTX creating fake volume to increase their ranking, but we're seeing like just as dirty as it gets, screwing over project after project, which is a whole different ball game. Now, Nick, you went through the pool that they had Justin Sun, Kevin O'Leary, and FTX potentially had. Then you touched on, because I know you've got a lot of points to go through, and I'll try to go through them as quickly as possible. You talked about then you jumped in and you were talking about the money laundering, I think, and you talked about $26 billion spent by Alameda and FTX. So can you tell us more about this and what your conclusions are?
Okay, so when we got the first, so this was one of the first data points that we needed. So we needed to figure out how much money they actually got. Then we looked at how much money could they have made through their exchange. Now, the good thing was they actually put out some figures. So Sam put out some figures. I mean, we're assuming that the figures he put out was legit, and we took those as another data point. So when we had those data points, we now knew what they claimed that they made in revenue. Now, based on their revenue model and their volume, we're very easily able to determine what their profit structure is. Now, we don't care how they make their money, if it was through spot, if it was through leveraging. What we're looking at is a model which gives us a percentage based on their everyday trade and profit through their revenue. So we're able to get their revenue model. Now, when we got the revenue model, it just got worse and worse. All right, it just from the revenue model, the data that came through is, okay, there's something seriously wrong here. If this was really trading at the fee structures that they've got on there, then they should be making 10 times plus what they're actually saying the revenue is. So there was only two outcomes that we could reach there. Either they were lying about their revenue, or the volumes were fake, and that's the 2 points that the conclusions you can come from there. So
and which one is it? Which one is it more? Are they underreporting their revenue, or was it fake volume?
No, we believe it's fake volume. We believe they were increasing the valuation to rip off investors. I mean, there's two parts of this. There's two major parts of this scam. One was stealing people's money that was in custody, right, and cashing it out, and obviously waiting for the market to drop, rebuying. This is what we believe, and this is speculative, but I'm going to tell you what we believe. And the second was they were increasing their valuations to rip off investors. So they were tricking investors into coming in investing very large sums of money into FTX, and that was their model structure. That's what we determined that their actual model structure was. That's how they made their money.
FTX's revenue structure, just to confirm, and I'll let you mute Haz and then unmute. FTX's revenue structure was twofold. One, screwing over projects. Two, lying to investors and taking their money.
Also, Mario, if you guys talked about the fact that when FTX and Alameda invest into a token project, they would often do it with some sort of requirement that a large percentage of the treasury is kept on FTX. And then, so you could imagine that, let's say that, FTX or Alameda invests $10 million into a project, that project puts, $9 million of their treasury back into their books. they can just reinvest that again, right? And that's just rinse, wash, repeat entirely. And when they get the tokens, if they're doing what we're talking about right now, then that's just more revenue generated from money created.
So is that, would you confirm that one? So go ahead, Rand.
Yeah, I'll agree on that point as well.
I'll let Rand comment on it quickly. Go ahead, Rand.
Mario, just quickly.
I mean, that happened
I am
to us,
listening to what you
Mario,
guys are saying, but just slightly off the topic, I just pinned a tweet or just tweeted on my account. Andrew has traced the original sellers of FTT to the Genesis OTC. Now, we don't. I mean, go look at the data. You guys can go and verify it yourselves. I haven't verified it. Obviously, I've just seen what he posted. But it's funny because also the Luna selling also began. Also the UST selling, which depegged Luna, also began in Genesis. And we also know that FTX was invested in Genesis. So it's probably worth looking at because that could be a massive story if the FTX selling actually originated out of FTT.
Oh, that's something I'd want to look into further. I'm just looking at the thread now. Okay, so this is something we'll probably cover once we finish with the story of.
Pretty big deal.
Yeah. Okay, I'll read it afterwards. I've just saved it, Rand, and Rand has pinned it above for anyone listening. It's on his account as well. I'll read it and then retweet it. All right. So Nick, we'll continue with this story. So we're up to with Haz. We're up to the revenue model was screwing over projects, which include what Kyle mentioned, and what he'd kind of faced as well when he spoke with Alameda, and that's forcing projects to hold their tokens on FTX, so then they could just, they kind of held hostage to FTX, and they're sitting on all that capital. Haz.
Mario, they're not their tokens. They're stable. Like if they've
their money they raise, yeah, they're sitting on their stables as well. Yeah, like Star Atlas is one example of that.
But also one of the key things we realized, and again speculative, we realized that there was no way they made this kind of money, right? I mean, where did they get their money from to buy the original tokens? So that's where because we saw what they did to us, the actual outcome that we came to is that they must be utilizing synthetics on this system, and they're utilizing synthetics to trade, and that's how they're making money without actually having the back end or the asset backing up the wallet or the synthetic on their servers. So all of this stuff came out because of the data modeling. That's what I'm trying to say. So the data was very important, and all the data we did led us to a conclusion, and the conclusion was